So education is the most dynamic aspect of a society. It helps society to overcome the current challenges and look at the future. Education generates new knowledge if it is properly done to deal with these challenges. If education is not properly structured, then it fails in this very important task that society needs. And the only entity which can actually deal with these challenges is the system of education in the country. If we think of leadership or bureaucracy or businesses, they are typically short term. They look at the here and now, but not of the long term. It's only institutions of education that can think of the long term, provided they have the autonomy to do so. So, government also realizing that there are various challenges, education is not delivering what it needs to deliver, came up with the New Economic Policy 2020. Unfortunately, the New Economic Policy 2020 is also the prisoner of precisely the same problems that have existed earlier. For instance, even though it talks of autonomy, but in the name of autonomy, it does not give autonomy to where autonomy should be given. Power is given to those who are precisely the problem. For instance, under the thumb of UGC or under the thumb of Ministry of Education, the institutions do not get autonomy. Giving autonomy to a vice chancellor is not the same as giving autonomy to a teacher who has to teach, who has to do research. So the elements that were precisely the reason why education was not delivering are the ones that are being empowered. Also, there are contradictions in the way the new education policy is structured. For instance, it talks about decolonizing the Indian mind and then invites foreign universities to come and set up campus here. They are going to bring this structure from abroad. They are not going to take the Indian structures in mind. So if we have to generate socially relevant new knowledge to take care of the problems of society, we have to restructure our education system. Unfortunately, that's not the case with the new education policy that the government has brought out. And that's why, as a protest, All India Save Education Committee has come up with a people's draft of the education policy, which is what is under discussion at the moment. And the idea is to make the education system relevant for the Indian conditions, to make it more inclusive, to make it more democratic, to bring about autonomy of education, to finance the system of education. Whether we spend privately or publicly, it's the national resources that are being spent. So the question is, what is our priority? Are we going to spend more on education, on especially public education? If we have to do that, then the budget has to provide for that. Teachers have to be given remuneration comparable to what other alternate jobs are. This idea that we can run education institutions with ad hoc teachers, with part-time teachers, is completely against giving high quality education. Education which is very elitist for some and not for others also creates its own problems. So we need to have an education system in which every child gets the same opportunity.
So common school system is a very important idea that has been put forward for quite some time but not implemented. In fact, Allahabad High Court had also made this appeal that children of bureaucrats and politicians should go to the same school as the general public. So in other words, there are a number of problems that are existing at the moment, and this draft of People's Education Policy is trying to grapple with them and suggesting how teachers, how parents, how students, they are all part of an inclusive process. It should not be exclusive, it should not be undemocratic. So People's Education Policy is a draft which talks about inclusive policies, which talks about everybody being a party to this. Now, this process has been going on for quite some time, where consultations are going on so that a people's draft can be finalized, and this draft would then be presented in Bangalore on 24th January. There, everybody who's interested should participate to make it a success. Once the draft is finalized and accepted at this Congress in Bangalore, then that would be made available for wider dissemination to all the sections of population and to the policymakers, with the hope that this would be able to generate enough pressure on the governments to adopt the thing. So it's very important that we all meet in January and put forward this draft together. Thank you.